Perfect. Glad to hear you guys are doing good outside of the raids. Alright, so VMAW. What's VMAW? So VSO, VHRC, VAA taught us it's a lot of things. It's basically another VSO. But the boss fights, as you'll notice from both the player and the raid lead perspective, has a lot more mechanics going on. But don't let that make you overthink these fights. Even though there's a lot of mechanics going on, a lot of these mechanics can be handled pretty well by either DPS or just general knowledge. Does anyone have any questions about VMO before we go in? It's basically,
yeah,
okay, go
are
on.
you going to be us like positional assignments as we go in, or?
Yeah, we'll go over every I mean, it's the same format. We're going to go over every fight, I'll explain, and you guys will fall asleep while I explain, and then we'll have you lead.
No.
And then we'll have you lead the runs. It's the same format for every trial. And then, hopefully by next week, we'll be starting, and also, we'll be starting VMO Harmon. And you guys requested me to show you how to organize a lunar phase for things like Think Focused, which I can go over today as well. But yeah, so I'll be going over a lot of stuff. So VMAW is a combination of VSO and VAA, basically. Lots of parsing to do. Tanks need to be a lot more on point than they were in VSO. VSO is sort of like the practice, okay, I understand how to range stack, I know how to stack things, I know what to prioritize in taunting, and figuring out where to stack things. You apply everything you've learned from VAA to VSO to VMAW. Alright, let's go through the door. Alright, so the first trash we'll encounter are these things. As tanks, you want to prioritize these ranged ads, but sometimes they don't spawn any, sometimes they do a lot more ranged ads. Up ahead, the group, and this is a rule of thumb for this VMAW trial, the group will focus the Sun Eater. It is priority ad. If your group's never focusing the Sun Eaters, that's a problem. So what happened here? Can anyone tell me the first mistake?
Didn't stack the ads?
Didn't stack the ads. Okay, so typically the main tank and off tank, whatever role that you want to call it by, groups will have you don't have to go through the door yet, please. Groups will often assign whatever ad to the main or mini tank, or off tank. The off tank will typically take the Tyranniders in this trial. Of course, everything depends on your ad pulls and strats for that. So what should have happened here was the off tank can take range taunt the archer at a distance. Who's the off tank today?
Off tank should be Wooden.
Okay, well then, so you should have range taunted the archer from this position roughly, and come over here. This way, the archer's actions are based on distance to you. So if you're closer to him and he's within range of you, he's gonna start doing wonky shit like summoning cats and shit. So that's gonna slow down the stacking process. So you should be here as soon as possible. The archer will naturally stack on where the Sun Eater is. And Skylar, you should have stacked the sword and board on the archer.
Okay.
Keep this in mind. Okay, let's go. Priority ads are Sun Eaters. And the first Sun Eater will spawn on the right here. Now, I'll go with the tanks.
So I should get melee, then?
You need to discuss this with Walden, so you guys should...
Oh, Wooden. I'll get melee, you get the archers?
Okay, you're running away.
Once...
There's melee right here. I got him.
Oh, I should've...
Okay, so anyway, once you grab the archers and tank, or the sword and board, come up here. Come up to the hill. Whoever has them. Whoever's at the archers, come to me, please. I'm jumping. On crown. Please look around.
I got him.
Okay, you got both archers?
I only saw one.
Okay, well the other one must have died. So you stand right here. Now there's two ways you can do this trash. I'm sure some of you have experienced the faster way and the slower way. This is a slower way. Basically what should have happened was that both archers and sword and board should have come up here. Two archers should have stacked in the middle with how I showed Woldens to stack them. The sword and board should have also been stacked on the archers. Then the group has a choice from that point on. First, kill everything in the middle here before you move on to this next wave, or pull the next wave while you do this. And the only time you pull the next wave, if you want to do it the fast way, is once the group is done finishing killing the Sun Eaters and coming up the hill. You don't want to pull it before they kill the Sun Eater. And I'll explain how to do that fast trash pull after we kill this. So the best way to handle this, in my opinion, is as a tank, and take note of this as a raid lead so you can tell your tanks what to do. You can stack both the Sun Eater, the archers in the middle here, where this archer is at, by having them taunt them and range stack them over here, where I'm jumping. The second way to stack them is to wait, aggro them, and you see that archer at the top of the stairs, right there guys? Once it comes down fully down the stairs, you'll have one tank taunt the Sun Eater, the 2 archers, and then, if need be, the sword and board, and then go up the stairs. And then they'll stack right in front of the stairs. Now Wolden's, your job here as the off tank, your priority will always be the 2-hander. Do you know how to handle the armor shatters from 2-handers? Does anyone here know how to handle the armor shatters?
I do.
Okay, how do you handle it?
I dodge through them. Like when it says when they do the armor burst, I dodge through them. Tend to have better luck that way than dodging another direction. You dodge them is, I guess, the answer.
Okay, well, how do you know the armor shatter is coming? I guess is a more accurate question. Because the add-on tells you? Is that the answer?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
so there.
that's
Okay,
the
so
answer
for those of you not using
Bring their
add-ons,
arms up too, though.
Right,
They,
right.
like, yeah.
so for those of you not using add-ons or on console, you have to take note when they swing up their maw over their heads. That's when you roll dodge towards them. Now, why do you roll dodge towards them? If you roll dodge backwards as they swing up their maw backwards, it may cancel out the animation, which causes them to actually try again until the shatter animation is actually avoided, or if the shatter animation actually goes off. That's why you always want to take note and either roll dodge forward, or roll dodge sideways. And also take note that it comes about every 10 seconds. So there's a set timer, roughly, depending on the animations. So roughly every 10 seconds expect a shatter. So have that internal timing down. So if you're a healer or DPS with a 2-hander on you, don't panic. And just roll dodge a shatter and stack it with the group. Alright, go ahead, tanks. Go ahead and pull it.
Okay, so you got the 2-hander and just the 2-hander, or are you grabbing the sword and board too? Am I grabbing the archers?
I could do whatever you need to do.
We just have
Oh,
Walden's
just-
taunt both sword and board and 2-hander.
Okay. Okay, I'll stack them by the stairs. Okay. Pulling in 3, 2, 1. Oh, just the sword. Sorry.
Okay. After this trash pull, you don't go through the door yet, because we'll go over positions for the first boss as well out here. It's just easier. Alright, so lots of things wrong with whatever the fuck that was. Okay, so what should have happened was tank over here or something, you taunt the Sun Eater. By the time you taunt the Sun Eater, the archer, you let the archer come down the stairs.
Okay.
The archer comes down, and then you taunt the archer there, and the archer here. Then you go up here. Right here. I don't know what tank was over here, all the way out here. That's pretty messed up. Another way you guys could have done it was stacking it in the middle of it here by pulling back towards the edge.
Okay.
But yeah, that's basically it. That's how you do the fast pull or the slow pull. Okay, so let's go over to positioning. I'll have a blood altar here, just as a reference for the boss. So, let's say over here is the main tank, Skylar. And the blood altar is the boss. So most traditional, or most common setups for group positioning is 4 melee positions and 4 range positions. So obviously your composition will matter here. Are you running stam? Are you running mag? You can actually have a lot more than 4 melee positions. You can technically have 5 or actually all 8 be melee. It just comes down to awareness. So, but for the sake of it, we'll have M1 be blood. Come here, blood. You're M1. So M1, M2, M3, M4, no matter what guild or Discord you go to, typically refers to how the positionings are laid out from left to right, from entrance to exit. Blood, that's M3, not M4, or not M1. This is M1.
I don't know where the boss was. I wasn't paying attention.
The Blood Altar is the boss. This is M1. And DBC, you're M2.
Oh, sorry, I thought I was M1.
No, I said Blood. You're M1. DBC, you're position 2. Sarah, you're position 3. Who wants to be position 4? Sarah, you're over here. Okay, Wolfie, you're position 4. Who wants to be R1?
I'll be R1.
C-Nex? Okay, C-Nex, you'll be R1. Come over here. So, yeah, you can move over here. R2. Lathrin, R3. Danuk. And Bebel. Like, literally in me. Danuk, come on.
Oh.
In me. You're not in me.
Oh, okay.
And Bebel, you're over here.
Me.
You're R4. Alright, and we can have one healer entrance, one healer exit. So the position of the healers can be here or here. So I'll be entrance, I guess, and Josie will be exit, so you can be here or here. Either one. This way you can hit people with combat prayer, right? And cover most of the people with your Illustrious Healing. Okay, and I mentioned earlier that you can actually do more than 4 positionings. You can do up to 8. And how this works is, just like the Warrior Armor, do you guys remember about Starfall? And melee positionings for the execute phase? That you can literally...
Everybody in the 2 stacks, and then people just backed up, that one?
Yeah, pretty much, that's it. Because curses so I'll explain what curses are. So there are 3 curses that go out every time Zhaj'hassa curses people. You don't want each curse AoE overlapping onto another player. Ideally, you always want 3 people to be cursed, when the curses go out. You don't want, let's say, Lathrin and DBC stacking each other. Lathrin gets the curse, but he doesn't roll dodge backwards or whatever, and he just stays here on DBC and she gets cursed. That's 4 people cursed now. What about the 2 other people that mess up? Could potentially go up to 6 people or even more. So when you see the curse AoE, the radius is not as large as Starfall, but it's pretty small. It's like from the distance between Sarah to DBC. This is an okay distance to be at next to each other for curse. You'll notice it. I'll call the curses out. There's 3 additional mechanics at every 20% of the boss's health, like 80, 60, 40, 20. These cats spawn, and that's the job on the tanks to chain them in, or pull them in at the very least, and make sure to either immobilize them or snare them. So it takes a longer time for them to return on aggroing to other players.
So if you have high DPS and you push, do you skip cat phases or do you just get lots?
And lots. You still get the cat phases. If you have high DPS, you can potentially kill them before the first 5 pillar phase. And how the pillar phases work is, these pillars come out from them periodically, and the pattern is 5 pillars, 5 pillars, 4 pillars, 4 pillars, 3 pillars, 3 pillars, 2 pillars, 2 pillars, and 1 pillar, 1 pillar. So after the first 5 pillar phase, he'll summon another 5 pillars. And these pillars will aggro onto the furthest person away from him. So let's say you're going for a cleanse pad, which if you are cursed, you will need to go for these cleanse pads you'll see in this room once you go in. If you're in the cleanse pad, you have to block that pillar, or it will just knock you out of the pad, or damage you and kill you, in conjunction with potential swipe from a cat ad. So there's 5 pillars first, and 5 pillars the second phase, and obviously the lower DPS you have, the harder it is for this fight. But nowadays, you don't really see too many groups, even progression groups, hit even 2 pillar phases or 1 pillar phases.
I've seen it once.
Right. So once the pillars run out and he does the explosion, there's no more pillars, so it's just an automatic wipe. But back in the day, it used to be a thing. And then the final mechanic is shield phase. He will, depending on his health percentage, go into shield phase. And you want to maintain the distance between yourselves and each other, because the AoEs, like Starfall, will damage and overlap. It will damage others if you overlap those AoEs onto the other people. Alright, any other questions? Okay.
So you said exit and entrance. Like when the boss spawns, like normally we do the stack method. Is the way I do it in my groups. I just want to make sure I'm in the right spot. So usually, if that was exit door behind me, where the boss is, like about where I would be.
Okay, so where
His positioning is what I'm wondering.
Okay, so the entire layout of this positioning, this is assuming we're in the middle of the room. That's a good question, because some groups, for whatever reason, still did this old 2016 strat, where they have a tank stand next to or on the clan's pad. This is a pretty fucked up strat for a couple of reasons. It's just archaic, it's just outdated, because what you're doing at that point is not really needed. And when you start this fight, it's just a matter of a DPS loss if you have to move into an entirely different location. Ideally, Zhaj'hassa should always be on the spawn point. He should never move. The only time he should ever move is if maybe, I don't know, a tank's cursed and the other tank's dead. But
Well,
no,
just call me out. Call me out if I'm in the wrong spot, I guess, because I believe I am, because I haven't seen groups go anywhere. Center strat be done any other way, but I just want to make sure I'm.
exit door is behind you, where you are right now, on me.
Okay. Okay.
Entrance is,
Okay.
let's say, this bush right here.
Okay. Yeah, we're on the same page.
Okay, let's go.
So
Is-
when we
Are there pets reserved for the tank?
That I'll talk about once we get in, just as a visual.
Okay.
But a lot of groups like to reserve these outer pads right here, this one and that one over there, the opposite of it, for the tanks or whatever. But sometimes the tanks don't get cursed, so it's okay to take those pads. Those pads will be up by the time the tanks
You want
get
me to
cursed.
pull and drop?
So, for the off tank, you want me behind Skylar and just pulling into cats?
You'll just be roaming. Yeah, we're going straight away, by the way, guys. So, Skylar mentioned all this stacking up. Looks like some of you are familiar with this. Denick, what are you doing? BTS. Hello?
My horn?
Yeah.
So, you notice that we're stacking up here. This is just basically... There's no real point for it. It's just for buffs. And then you'll spread out once the curses go out. Looks like there was over cursing.
Off tank. Can you grab him?
Got him.
My horn?
So make sure you get into your positionings. Blood, what are you doing? Go for a pad.
Let me know when you want him back, Skylar.
Fight really comes down to awareness, guys. Individual awareness.
Curse, take him.
If you notice a pad was taken earlier, it's probably gonna come back up.
Okay, got him.
It's very infuriating when people just kind of give up and say, "Oh, there's no pads," and they die. But there are pads. They're just on cooldown.
Going full risk.
This is where we hide behind the pillar. Make sure he's actually line of sighted. A neat trick here for the tanks to know whichever tank holds him
Off tank.
is when he's
On
about
Earth.
to explode. You can roll dodge out
Got him.
early so he doesn't
Earth.
move like that.
Yeah, I can take him. Got him.
Where are you at? Okay.
My horn?
So these cats need to be pulled in. and also the boss is moving a lot. So we're seeing a lot of really basic mistakes here already.
Off tank first.
Okay. I got him.
Oh, I seriously see no pad.
Just
Because
stand on
people are
one.
over-cursed. Or over-cursing.
I'm not. I didn't make it.
I'm gonna die right at the pad.
Wipe this. 'Cause this was awful.
I definitely screwed up. I didn't. I was asleep at the wheel for the pillar, so that was my bad. And I double cursed 2 people.
All of you screwed up. Okay. You see where Zhaj'hassa is right now? He should never move from that spot. That's the first mistake. I don't know what the tanks were doing. And again, I don't know if you were listening during the fight. Or calling out your stuff. But do you hear what I said about roll dodging out early for pillar phase?
Yeah.
Cool. That will help. The second basic issue is there was one person walking over people with curse. When you get curse, your group has to decide whether the cursed person, depending on how you want to position yourselves, is going to be the one to roll dodge out of the group, or if they're going to stand still. If you get curse and you're walking around and the curse goes off as you walk around or do your weird side-to-side movement as a DPS, you're going to curse people. Why people couldn't see pads after a point in time was because there were like 4, 5, 6 people getting cursed at a time. And that means less pads or no pads. So mind your positioning. And if you still don't get it, think back to every single thing you've learned so far. I mean, this is pretty much this is pretty basic. This is the easiest fight in the trial. If you don't understand, then something's not right. And you need to let me know. Any other questions before we start? Okay, so Skylar, you will start.
Okay. Okay. Pulling in 3, 2, 1. My horn.
But just go to your normal positionings, just to be clear about this. Go to your normal positionings. And who's this moving around so much? What the fuck? Yeah, see next to the right. If your screen is blue, you should be cleansing. And these cats need to be pulled in. Curses are going out. You guys are noticing the small AoEs, yes? Those are the curses. After the shield phase, there will be another curse. Now the only time when curses don't go out, especially before you hit 4 pillar phase,
Cleansing. Except somebody took that pad, so I'm cursed.
take the other path. Once the 4 pillars spawn here before the 5 pillar phase, you guys can actually stack up.
Cleanse,
Unless you're gonna hit a shield phase.
Got him.
He explodes.
So got him. Somebody run the red Skylar.
So, if the boss ever shifts, you guys also need to readjust your positioning. Because those of you in the back, all the way back here, you're not getting anything. Why are people DPSing all the way from nowhere? Move forward. And when shield phase goes out, look where you're at. Wow.
Got him, Skylar.
Oh yeah, I got him.
And at 20%, cat spawn again. That'll be the last cat spawn, because after 20%, another 20%, 0%.
I got cursed again.
Got him.
Okay.
This is a 4th pillar here pretty soon. You can all stack up actually, because there's no more curses. And even if there are more curses, You guys can burn.
Yeah, I will.
Most groups can burn.
Yeah. I was cursed. I decided not to move because there was no bad close to get it. What do you mean?
That was
Scholar?
pretty bad. I don't have soldiers with it, but that's fine. So there's a couple of people not understanding, I think. The nuke, when you get
Yes.
cursed, you need to go cleanse immediately.
I couldn't because the further one that there were the further ones away that could I could go and cleanse. I didn't want to curse anybody else.
I understand what you're saying here. When you
It's
get
only
cursed,
sticky for a minute.
when you get cursed,
not-
your screen
Yes.
goes blue.
Yes, I know.
And
I
then-
was cursed. I look around because I do have the add-on that tells me which where there's an open side, and the ones that were open were further from me, and I would be walking pretty much all around before to get to it. So I decided not to move rather than curse anybody else.
Oh,
That's not how the curse works. When you get cursed, that's it, you're done.
Yeah.
How are you cursing anybody else once you're cursed? Can you
Oh, I
explain to
cannot
me?
give it to anybody else?
So
Okay.
it's the circle on your feet.
So there-
Once
yeah,
the
there's a circle
on your
that goes
feet's
out.
Gone, you can't curse anyone else. So you just
After I
run
got
away.
it, I cannot curse anybody. Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
I
Can, but only
explained
for
it.
a brief moment. So like you have to
Okay.
pause for a moment, and then when the blue
Mhm.
circle at your feet goes, you can
Yeah.
start moving. You don't have to pause for
Okay.
one moment. You just can't be if you're doing the DPS dance back and forth like what I do right now.
You're breaking
Then
up.
I would curse people around me if I was doing this dance when I get the curse.
Okay. Okay, got it.
No, okay, so once the circle goes out, and the circle's gone, right? You get cursed, you get a blue screen, you go immediately to
Yeah.
the pad. I saw you stay, and while you're cursed, you're staying still.
Yeah.
And then,
Yeah, because I thought I was would be giving it to anybody else if I moved.
As long as that circle's
as
not
long
on your
as that
feet,
circle's
you can't
gone, you're
curse
done.
anyone.
Okay, now I know that. It won't be the same the next time.
Yeah, I thought the same thing to Nuke. You weren't alone in that one.
We used to tell people wait a couple seconds and then go,
Okay.
because we thought that
The circle stays for about 2 seconds, so that's okay advice, but the correct answer is the circle on your feet. That's what you should be looking at.
Yeah. Okay. Good enough.
3 circles that go out every curse phase. 3. Which means you should always only have 3 cursed people going for pads. If you have more, something is wrong. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. A lot of groups typically skip this mom for whatever reason. Whether, I don't know, but they just do. But we're actually
Yes, you
gonna
can.
I make mine kill it now, every time.
we're actually gonna be going over this trash. So one tank's gonna take pretty much all the ogres, and the other tank, typically the off tank, will go forward over here. And then going forward to a certain point distance and coming back, it's gonna proc this render and shaman pack. Then you come back, and you should be proccing it as the off tank as the main tank pulls this trash back. After this shaman and these ogres die, there will be 2 archers that spawn, 1 sun eater, and 1 sword and board. Main tank, since you're taking the archers,
okay,
you might as well just take the sword and board too at this point. Just taunt 3 of them
okay,
and come to here.
oh, okay,
And then this will make them stack right here. And after the group is finished killing the Sun Eater, by the way, Walden should also be stacking 200 on this stack all the time. Just like the first trash pool, or the pre-Zhaj'hassa trash pool, the group has 2 decisions to make. 1, kill this trash stack here, then move on to the next one. The second is pull the Render and Shaman into this stack here. Now, this is the first time we've seen a Ogre trash in the trial. The Render will roar. The indication for the first roar is going to be when the Shaman puts up his hand and starts putting out healing AoEs. these healing AoEs on the Ogre Brutes and Ogre Render and whatever can be pretty painful. So if you're near multiple Ogres, make sure you don't get hit by those multiple healing AoEs the Ogre Shaman puts out. A lot of groups make the mistake of saying, okay, the Render roars, the tank has failed to bash it, so let's focus the Render. But the true threat here, honestly, is a Shaman. So my priority is usually Sun Eater, then the Shaman, then everything else. Does anyone else have any questions about the Maw mechanics so far? Okay, so until the Render dies, the tank has to bash. Not constantly, there's like a brief moment in between each bash where you can just sort of maybe medium weave or let go of block and then start bashing again. So keep that in mind. Alright, let's go. Start the trash.
Okay. Pulling in 3, 2, 1.
Okay, we're gonna go forward and kill this Sun Eater. One thing I didn't explain earlier, by the way, for trash, it was why we focus the Sun Eater. The Sun Eater spawns these Eclipse fields, they're negates, and if you put these negates onto the Sun Eater, or whatever on the ads, that completely negates AoE effects, such as your wall, such as orb. So if a negate is placed onto them, it just adds more seconds to the trash fight, which is unnecessary. You can tell when the Sun Eater is about to cast negate by when it starts raising its staff. By the way, the Shaman is not taunted, so you guys should decide who's taking the Render and who's taking the Shaman for this one.
I'll take the Render.
Okay, I got Shamans.
And then, once you notice the Shaman raising its staff, that's usually your cue to just not be near anything else. Otherwise, some groups do wait until the first negate goes out, then converge on the trash. If you are on PC and not console, then obviously the add-on tells you if you're targeted by the negate. And that way you have a split second to roll dodge or sprint out. Okay, so this next trash is pretty straightforward. Again, we are presented with two choices. First choice, we kill the Sun Eater and stack the Archer, the Sword and Board, and the Tomb Raider. Here you can actually stack the Archer onto the Sun Eater by taunting him and coming over here by the crown. And then everything will be stacked after that.
Oh.
Well, no, I'll show you after. The second choice you guys can make as a group is pulling this trash pack down the hill. And then initiating the Gauntlet pulls. But that's more for score pushing and just saving time. It's really depend on the groups you go with. Okay, and make sure you roll dodge the armor shatterings if you're the off tank. Okay, as we go down this hill, I see this a lot on both EU and NA. This old strat of, oh, let's go to the cave and kill the Shaman there. No, just come here to the foot of the hill. And here, I'm going to assign sides because you guys aren't really communicating. So Woldens and Skylar. Woldens, you're always going to take the stuff from the left and stack it. Skylar, you're taking the stacks from the right. You're stacking it.
Okay.
Start bashing the Render, by the way.
The Render.
No, you're taking things from the left side, Woldens. The Render came from the right side. Here, we're going to focus our attention here onto the Sun Eater. So what should have happened there was those ogres should have been stacked on the Sun Eater here. To optimize, okay, if they're going to die here, our AoE is already here. Our intention is here, so the Sun Eater will die faster. What could have happened there as well right here is the Archer could have been stacked on the Sun Eater with everything else, but that also depends on the group DPS too. You'll notice too that you'll get a bleed if you stand in the arrow spray. Okay, so, yep. Right here, stack it right here, everything right here. Everything right here. Where's that other Render going? It's roaring. Woldens, where are you? You're not dead. So, as you notice, that went terrible. But you want to stack everything there. I don't have Soul Gem, so you guys gotta res. After we're done this trash, we go forward onto the Sun Eater right here. Skylar, you're stacking the ogres onto the Sun Eater. Woldens, you're taunting the archer and the two-hander, and you come to this corner here where the crown is. Well, that sucks. Make sure you bash the render, Skylar. A really good tip for bashing renders, especially when they're all like within each other's hitboxes and trash. Especially when there's two renders. You use tap target or cycle through their hitboxes. Just like in AA. After this archer dies, which by the way should have also been stacked on the Sun Eater location in the prior wave, there's an archer and mage that spawns by the foot of the hill. Skylar, you taunt those two, and you taunt the Sun Eater. Yep, and then you taunt the Sun Eater as well, or at least, yeah, just taunt everything that's ranged and come over here where the crown is.
Oh, I got some melee stuff, I guess.
So right here, there's no two-handers. So Walden should have grabbed the sword and boards. I'll go over everything after this, because I think a lot of you are confused. We need to clarify.
I'll try to get it on the second run.
That's fine. I just need everyone to be on the same page. Yeah, the shield charges are random. Target swimmer. Okay, let's go over to trash. And
so stack the sunny.
I'll go over to trash. Let me go over to trash. Okay, we're coming down the hill, right? Everyone should be paying attention. If you can't explain this to anyone else, then you failed. So we're coming down the hill. Ogre Shaman and 2 Ogre Brooch spawn in the cave. Ogre Render and 2 Ogre Brooch spawn at the door. Okay, and I had Woldens take everything from the cave from that point on. Skylar took everything from the right side from that point on. Woldens should have been here. You taunt the Shaman, at the very least. You can taunt the 2 other ogres if you have the time. You run back here. The Shaman, based on distance, will start activating his heals. Before he starts activating his heals, you want to make sure he ends up around here. Roughly. Because this is where the next Sun Eater in the next wave spawns. Meanwhile, the Render and the two other ogres should be also stacked at this point. And they should die. The Sun Eater spawns here. Everyone's looking at the spawn anyway. But for the tanks, you have the option of taunting this archer right here where the nuke is. At range from the hill. And this tank can go up all the way over here. And the archer will spawn. Or not spawn, but be stacked on the mange where there are already dots and stuff. At this point, everyone should be aware enough to the point where, hey, if there's a negate coming, I should get out of here. Meanwhile, the off tank can take the sword and board that spawns here to the right and here by the towards the twins. Then stack them on the Sun Eater spawn / archer. After this trash dies, the third wave spawns in the Gauntlet. There's 1 Shaman, 1 Render, and 1 Render from the left. And they should be roughly stacked here. As they come forward, just stack them. Nothing to overthink about. And then the off tank should have the Render taunted from the left. You come over here. Make sure you tap target them. Then once the Shaman starts initiating the healing, you bash. Then this trash will die. The 4th wave starts. The Sun Eater spawns on the 4th wave here. Everyone focuses the Sun Eater as priority. The Shaman and the Render from the right door right here spawns, and you stack them on the Sun Eater. The off tank will taunt both the two-hander that spawns from the cave, well not from it, but like near the cave, and then the archer right here. After you taunt both, immediately go to this corner. Woldens. This corner. Thanks. Okay, and then you kind of just wait here. The two-hander will come to you as the archer stacks onto the Sun Eater. You're gonna have to wait here for a little bit, like at least 5 seconds. The archer will totally like just stack right here where the Sun Eater was. And then you roll out. Expect a shatter. By the time the 200 gets to you in this corner, you roll dodge out, and then you stack everything else. The fifth and final wave of the Gauntlet here, guys. It's pretty simple. There's 2 sword and board that spawn at the top of this hill here. There's no 2-hander, so the sword and boards will go to the off tank. You taunt them, and you stack them wherever Skylar puts them at. And Skylar, there's a Sun Eater here, and an archer here. And there's a Sun Eater by the door. Groups, depending on the strats, sometimes just stacks everything in the middle, or has your group focus this Sun Eater, then go to that Sun Eater, whatever, but your job is just to stack. And everybody else will just do their own thing. You taunt both the archer and the Sun Eater here. And make sure the Sun Eater doesn't move from this spot where it spawns. Then you can pretty much adjust where they stack. So you can stack first the Sun Eater like here. Don't go too deep, because they just do weird shit. I don't know why. And don't use a brazier ever in here in this trial as a line of sight. It's just too wonky. And then you can slightly shift yourself to the right to sack the archer, and you'll try that next run, I hope. And that's it. That's the Gauntlet. That's how you stack, prioritize the ads, and make sure you guys get through this without wiping or dying, or people not knowing which to prioritize or where to go. It's pretty straightforward. Any group can do it. It may take a couple reps, but it's probably the most natural feeling strat for ads, instead of the weird shit people still do from like 4 years ago. All right, here's a twins. Yes, the so-called hardest fight in the game. It's not. It's not even the hardest. I don't think it's even like hard. But just to give you a short anecdote, I was in a progression guild a long time ago, and that guild took 7 months to get past this boss.
Jeez.
I've heard of timelines like that. Yep.
So I've seen pretty much every fucking crazy shit that everyone tries, or tries to make it easy or whatever. But I'm gonna show you guys the simplest, it doesn't matter what kind of group you are, the simplest way to just do this fight. And I'll begin explaining by explaining what the fight is. So the fight is basically, this is the fight pattern. I think it's probably easier to break it down in a pattern. The tanks aggro their bosses. The bosses hunch over. They assign 6 colors to 6 people, respectively. If you're closer to the black boss, you get the black aura / color around your head. If you're closer to the white boss, you get the white head / aura around your head. If you are of the same color, and you are attacking the same colored boss as you, you're not doing any damage to them. So you have to attack the opposite colored boss. So if I have a black aura around my head, I should be attacking Skinrai, the white-headed boss, not Vashai, the black-headed boss. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. The second most obvious mechanic in this fight, besides not doing damage to the same colored boss, is if you run into someone of the opposite color, you blow them up and you both die. You can blow up multiple people if you run into the group. How do you avoid this? Well, positioning. So the third thing that happens is after they assign colors, they will spawn ads. Or the second thing to do after they assign colors to people is they'll spawn ads. And the number of ads will actually go up based on both the length of the fight and their health increments. So the faster this fight ends, the better. But you can still do a comfortable 2-minute 50, 3-minute some fight and still clear this. You don't need to have big DPS to clear this fight. There's a lot of misconceptions too about this fight that I've noticed. I mean, in this Korean raid guild, this guy was telling people, hey, just roll dodge through those big negate AoEs that Vashai is putting out, you'll be fine. No, that's stupid. There's a lot of misconceptions of this fight. And another big one is it's pretty important that the groups don't run into each other, right? Because if you're, again, of the opposite color and run into other people, you're gonna blow up the people, and you're gonna kill yourself as well. So most groups have basically said, okay, everyone go clockwise. But what ends up happening is when Vashai is about to put out a negate, and the other group is coming in from the opposite side clockwise against the wall, he puts the negate on them. And then they die, or they're very hindered, or some weird shit happens. To avoid this, you have the group swapping from Skin Rai, the white boss, to Vashai, the black boss, cut through the middle of the room. People who are going from Vashai to Skin Rai, yes, you'll always go towards the wall. But I need you guys to practice this, because this is a really bad habit that a lot of groups pick up in progression groups. And you don't want to teach this bad habit to your future groups, because it just doesn't make sense. Why would you risk dying just to swap sides when you can just, one, cut through middle, get there faster, do more DPS, and not die? And two, it just doesn't make sense. The other mechanics I mentioned was the negates that Vashai puts out. He will never negate the same colored, people of the same color. So the black-headed people will not be targeted by his negates. And there's some crazy burn strats you can try out by using this to your advantage, but we won't be going over that. He should typically negate the tank, unless Vashai notices somebody in his peripheral, or it gets turned around, whether it's being pushed by an ad due to collision, or if the tank points him a totally weird way. But he should never negate the DPS behind him. Skin Rai does a Jesus beam. That beam, Radiant Impression, whatever you can call it, cannot be broken free out of. You gotta bash for each other when you see the white ads in Skin Rai channel on somebody. If you don't, they'll just die eventually. Another thing to be aware of, especially as healers in here, or even tanks, depending on who's gonna purge, is that the Skin Rai and his ads put out Lunar Flare, or Vampire's Bane, whatever you call it, from the Templar skill line. It hurts. It's a pretty strong dot, so whenever possible, either heal through it or purge through it. You'll notice them stretching their hands out and putting the Lunar Flares on people.
I slotted purge.
Yeah. In terms of communications, a lot of groups go over this too. Like, healers let each other know, Josie, okay, I'm swapping, because the last mechanic, or actually the second last mechanic I should explain before I go into this, is that 3 people from each side, or 3 people from each group, because we'll have 2 different halves of the side, are going to swap colors. 3 people, except the tanks. As long as the tanks have taunts on the bosses, they should never get color swaps. 3 people from each side will get color swaps. Then those 3 people will rotate in the exact fashion I described earlier. From Skin Rai to Vashai, cut through middle. From Vashai to Skin Rai, towards the wall. And that's it. Once you arrive in your new group, you're done. If you don't get a color swap, you don't switch sides. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Okay. I have a feeling someone doesn't. Or some people don't. So we'll see who blows up who. The last mechanic is prayer phase. So after they're done spawning ads, after some time the ads spawn, each boss will randomly crash down on each side of the room by the doors. So Skin Rai may jump up and end up here, or Vashai could jump up and end up here. So how do we handle this? When they go into prayer phase, they'll blow up the room after some time, after they finish praying. If you are of the black aura and you are on this side and Skin Rai ends up on this side, you are staying. Because remember, you're always going to be on the boss of the opposite color. If Vashai ends up here and you have the same aura as him, you're going to blow up after they finish prayer phase. And if that happens, both groups need to rotate clockwise towards the other side. Does that make sense? And by sides, I mean, it's divided by this candle line here. There's 2 halves of a circle. And for that, you should always have your groups prepare to swap by being on the clockwise side of your half of the circle, if that makes sense. Like, if you're all the way over here, right? DPSing the boss that comes down or whatever, seeing the boss that's coming down. It's going to take you a lot longer to swap to the other side by going clockwise. From this area, this half of the circle, to the other half of the circle. So you should always be towards the clockwise side of your half of the circle. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, I think we're done explaining everything. So for the tanks, one tank will taunt or pull Skin Rye.
I'll taunt Skin Rye, and then on color swap, I'll grab Vashai.
We're uneven.
Right.
That sound good?
No, we're not uneven. We have a Danuke on entrance.
Oh, Danuke is not standing with the group. Surprise.
No, I haven't explained that part yet. So, remember for color assignment, the people closest to the boss will be assigned their colors. So, let's say I'm out here, and the group's over here, and they're assigning colors. It might mess up the color assignments. So at the beginning of every color assignment, at the start of the fight, you want to be closer to the boss. Does that make sense? So, just go ahead.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay. Pulling in 3, 2, 1.
Freaking hard.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Something happened. I think, what the heck happened? Where's the... Okay, I
Off
think...
tank.
I got Infernal Fusion for 52k.
Yeah.
Someone went the wrong way.
What is this again?
Okay.
I assume we're wiping.
Yeah. Now I want to go over one more thing before we start the next one. And it'll be about how the bosses are positioned too. I don't know how I've been rizzed.
So I don't know if this might help you in teaching me the way you do it. I'm old-fashioned, and I've always done the Skin Rye or Vashai to the wall type of method. So
Okay.
that's the positioning I'm used to.
So that's... I kind of touched upon that when I was talking about the bad habits of stuff.
Yeah.
Of people. A lot of progression groups tell their tanks, Woldens, to hold Vashai like this, like towards the wall. There's a problem with this because when the ads spawn, you can't chain them as easily because they're really far away. So where you should be holding Vashai, if you're on this half of the circle by entrance, is closer to middle, like much closer to middle, not against the wall or towards the wall. I don't want to aggro him, but basically you want to just imagine I'm standing on the candle line, right? Or near the right next to the candle line.
Yeah.
You know, put him near middle like this, then pivot to the right. Because the DPS will be behind them. And when you're chaining in dark ads, you always want to pivot to the right. Because if you pivot to the left as you chain them in, then what is it?
He may
negate. Yeah, he may negate. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
For Skin Rye, you always want to put him towards middle. Always. You should always be like close to middle. Like where we are, basically. No matter what half of the circle you're on. And by the way, if you end up on the exit side of the room, then Vashai should be the mirror image of where you hold him entrance side. Does that make sense? Like you should be like here. Skylar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, go ahead.
Okay. Pulling in 3, 2, 1.
Try to make sure the bosses are okay. Good. You want to stack up. Good job. Okay, this is pretty good. Make sure you taunt or pull in your ads. Skyline to your right.
Oh. Ah, do I have a tab targeted? Stupid thing.
You killed a nuke. You guys always want to be in front of your healers and behind the boss. and you want to make sure you change. You don't want to tab target anything here. So this is color swap. So 3 of you should.
Healer stage.
Sarah and the other 2, B-Bell and
Why
Locker.
can't I?
You could have swapped through middle, but
Let me chain him. There it goes.
also healer staying.
Everyone is allowed.
Yeah, everyone. We're gonna rotate. Look at the boss. Rotate. You gotta sprint.
Yeah.
Nice here, rotate. You gotta sprint to the other side. We're gonna wipe it.
So it's time to hug.
So now when the boss is when the colors go back to, after prayer, are we staying with the same boss or are we going to whatever boss we have?
You want prayer phase?
Yeah, after prayer phase where you lose your colors and you have to get the colors back
You are
again?
staying wherever you end up at.
Okay.
Together.
And so what do the healers do? What if we're both on the same side?
Well, that's a pretty good question. Some groups will actually have one healer call out, or just have to really call out, okay, Nephis, swap with, who's on the exit side? Swap with Blood. And then after prayer phase is over, immediately, we just swap spots. And then that means, okay, a healer is now on each side again. Does that make sense?
Yes.
However, I mean, it's not really relevant in my opinion.
Just cross heal?
Yeah, just cross heal. Just have, okay, I swap sides, I'm going to heal my original group. Or just call it out.
Okay.
Yeah. So, you cannot block them. You can only roll dodge their swipes or run away from them. I don't care if you're a tank, healer, or DPS. Some groups, if they want to push for time or whatever, they'll actually let their tanks or whoever who has the most stam or who can roll dodge them actually just put them in place and just roll dodge your swipes. We don't have to do that because most progression groups, maybe some of your groups won't be really interested in that. So what you basically have to do is once people are assigned these cats and how these cats aggro. I'll explain this very clearly so everyone understands. And if you die to the swipes, you didn't understand. When you get the aggro of a cat, a purple beam, whatever you want to call it, of light or whatever, falls on you. And then the cat that's aggroed onto you is indicated by when they turn red. Them turning red does not mean they enraged. Them turning red means that cat is on you. And then you with the other person, because they only aggro on 2 people at a time, 1 person each, you just go clockwise together. And they'll be stacked as they go clockwise and run around. And you make sure you have some distance between yourself and them. And that's it. Most groups probably will see the cats change targets. So people who are chasing down the cats also need to be aware when that purple pillar of light and the color of the cats change. You have a moment to like roll dodge away or run away. Anyone have any questions? And I'll go over the trash waves here as well after we kill these. Alright, if there's no questions, let's pull. Okay, me and who's this? Sarah. Yay, we got the cats. As you can see, we have them stacked up pretty nicely. Oh, fuck. But yeah, as you can see, unfortunately, I didn't run away fast enough. And that's what happens.
My group likes to play who's got the cat. I'm used to running.
You run away, make sure you don't run backwards. Because you, again, like from VSO Hardman, if you go backwards, it's slower movement speed. Okay, so we're done the cats. Now we're gonna do the chain pulls. So we can do the right or left. So the right's easier, so we'll go over the right a little first. So there's 3 waves per chain pull trash. The first wave is going to consist here of 1 Sun Eater over here, 2 archers, or is it 1 archer? 1 archer, 1 sword and board, and 1 two-hander. Woldens, your job as the off tank, and for future off tanks, is you just grab the two-hander and you stack it. And Skylar, your job is to basically also stack everything. But they're already relatively stacked pretty tight on the first wave. The second wave, you're actually going to have Woldens, the off tank, taunt the sorting board. Or whatever sorting boards there are. However many there are. Because on the second wave, there's this archer that sticks out of the stack, like around here. And you can just taunt that archer along with the other archer and just come out here, and that will stack tightly. The third trash, pretty much the same story, except there's a two-hander in the third wave, which means either you or Woldens can take that sorting board. So that's up to you guys.
So, question about the two-handers.
Okay.
Single target or cleave?
The armor shatter or their attack?
I know the armor shatter is single target, but
No, the armor shatter is AoE. It will affect every single person in the vicinity. So when you get armor shattered and there's people near you, they also get armor shattered. If they don't block the spin of the dread guards, the shadow guards, sorry, then they'll die because they don't have any resistance. That's what happens when you get armor shatter. You don't get any physical resistance. So what's your question, like, about the armor shatter?
About positioning those, whether it's better to pull them in right away.
It's just better to stack them immediately. There is one pull I'll kind of give you a tip on, but that's not this pull. You stack them immediately, and you expect a shatter right away. If it doesn't come after a light attack or a heavy attack or whatever they do, just keep expecting until it happens. After the initial armor shatter goes out, 10 seconds later, roughly, there will be another armor shatter. You'll get an internal timing for it. And it's okay if you fuck up. That's fine. But just keep learning it. Alright, let's start. Go ahead, Wolfie. You're very eager.
He was up there prepared.
Okay, so there's a Sun Eater. Priority, we kill the Sun Eater. Wave is gonna go out. And then negate. You saw it raise up its staff. And then here, everything's already kind of stacked. Keep stacking these tightly. These should be like in each other tight. Always. We learned this in VSO, we learned this even in AA. Okay, and there's this archer right here, Skylar. This is what I meant by stacking it, because that archer's kind of sticking out. You stack one archer or the other on the other archer. Don't ever use a brazier. I'll again show you where to go.
Alright, well, it wasn't my intention, but I can see how it looked like it.
Okay, the third wave is spawning soon after this last red sucker dies. Two Rangers gonna spawn. And then one more archer, one more Sun Eater. I mean, two more archers, and then we just kill the Sun Eater. As long as that negates not on the Sun Eater, we're good. Unfortunately, Skylar keeps using the brazier or something to line of sight.
I'm just going around the brazier. I can't even go near the brazier.
Well, you're still. It doesn't matter how far away you are from the brazier if you're still line of sighting using the brazier. I'll show you exactly where to go again. Okay, so second wave. There's no two-hander. Woldens takes whatever sorting board. There's an archer that spawns here. Roughly. There's an archer that spawns here. This archer is closer to the Sun Eater. So you, to basically maximize your efficiency, you taunt this archer here. Then you just go here.
Oh, okay.
And then they'll stack.
You taunt the other archer?
You don't have to, because it's already stacked.
Okay.
And then same thing for the third wave.
Okay.
Okay, so left chain pull, it's gonna be one Sun Eater, two archers. And here you can taunt the Sun Eater and the Archer, or have your tanks taunt the Sun Eater and Archer. The furthest one's away. One is here, one is the Sun Eater. There's an Archer here, and there's an Archer here. You taunt this, Skyline, and then you just end up here. And what this will do, they'll stack on the left or right, from based on your perspective, Archer. That's the first wave. There's a 2-hander that spawns. That 2-hander will always be stacked on wherever everything else is stacked. Second wave, there's 2 Sun Eaters now, compared to the other chain pull. 1 Sun Eater here, and then 1 Sun Eater here. Most groups just do ulti rotations, like Destro. Okay, I'm gonna Destro here, blah blah blah. But make sure you're still focusing making sure your AoEs are at least touching the Sun Eaters, and make sure to roll dodge out if you have a negate aimed at you. Other than that, there's a lot of mistakes people make. I see DPS here or here when the tanks are holding the Sun Eaters and Shadow Guards around here. So it's just better to always be on the outer side around here where we're at currently. There's no need to move around and risk dying in here. Third wave, pretty much the same exact thing as the second wave. However, the 2 Sun Eater spawns are delayed. Alright, let's go.
Who's grabbing the sword and boards? That'll be Wooden.
Okay.
Okay.
What?
Right. Is Wooden grabbing the 2 sword and boards then?
No. Because there's 2-handers on every wave. So that was a decent stack, but somebody fucked up with the negate there. The Archer could be closer. You can wait a little bit more before you come back in. The second wave's gonna spawn 2 Sun Eaters in the back where we're at, or the majority of the people are at. Right here.
My Warhorn.
Sun Eater's not, or Sword and Board's not taunted.
Yep, I felt that.
Okay, so let me explain this trash. It's the last trash pull of the entire trial. Yay. Okay, so the first wave is 1 Sun Eater on the right, 1 2-hander on the right. Don't go too far out, guys, otherwise we'll proc the spawns. 1 Archer on the left, and 1 Sword and Board on the left. So, Woldens, you're just gonna pretty much... You can do either things. You can do either way. Stack the 2-hander on the Sun Eater, or stack the 2-hander on the... wherever Skylar's gonna stack them. Skylar, you're gonna stack them on over there where the lightning ball is going.
Okay, I think that's the way I normally do it.
Okay, the Sword and Board and Archer should be stacking there. For the Archer, you can kind of go towards here, this corner, if you want, or use the little alcoves in the walls to stack it if you can. And the second wave, there's going to be 2 Sun Eaters that spawn, 1 over there, and 1 on the right over there. Since our wave 1 trash ended over on this side, we're going to be focusing the one that spawns over there. Woldens, I'm going to give you a tip about the second wave, because on the second wave there's 2 2-handers that spawn. Taunt both of them, because they spawn in the middle of the room on the left and right side of this Archer that spawns in the middle. You taunt both of them, you make sure they're kind of together side by side. You run around for a little bit, but not too long, I don't know, 4 seconds. And then when they approach you, they should be synced up in terms of their shatter, and in terms of their shatter mechanic. Okay. So then, this way you don't have to roll dodge one, then immediately roll dodge another. You can just roll dodge both of them at the same time. After that, you can just stack it on the wherever the Sun Eater and the Archer is gonna end up at. So Skylar, you're gonna actually come over here after you taunt the Archer in the middle of the room and the Sun Eater right over there, and they'll stack on each other, like right here, basically. Okay. Right here.
Sun Eater and the Archer.
Yep, right here. No, not right there. Right here, like in me. When I say right here, guys, you always stack in me, always. Okay, and for the third wave, probably the most difficult one that can wipe groups, there's an Archer that spawns on the store. There's a 2-hander that spawns in the middle. That 2-hander is all yours, Skylar, and not Skylar, Woldens, and that's it. And since we're ending wave 2 trash on the right side of the wall, we're going to kill the right Sun Eater that spawns over there. There are 2 Sun Eater that spawn again on the third wave. So Skylar, you're gonna take the archer by this door here, the archer by the opposite door over there, the sword and board in the middle, and the left sunning over here on the southern wall. And then you're gonna go to that corner over there to the right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you stack everything. Okay, let's go.
So right after the first armor shatters dodged, I take the two-handers and stack them on the Sun Eaters.
Yeah, kill the Sun Eater.
Where'd you go? I got your guy.
Yeah, you do.
Guys do that, and then I go like this.
Perfect. Although, you could have the archer more over here, where I am. You didn't have to go that far, because that's where the Sun Eater spawned to. Hey,
Okay.
kill the Sun Eater here, guys.
Now, archer.
Yep. You then grab both two-handers Woldens. They spawn in the middle of the room, on the left and right of the archer.
Oh, I got one of your guys.
My warhorn.
I roll dodge those shatters. We're all shattered, by the way. Okay, we're gonna kill this Sun Eater right here, where I'm at. Please watch those gates.
He's taunting. Crap.
Too slow.
Yep. Didn't limit gate.
Holy wipe.
Sorry. My fault.
Start immediately, by the way. So, go for it. Same thing. We gotta kill the Sun Eater. Just gotta stay with the group, then, dude. Come on. Same
Well,
thing.
there's a cat after me.
That doesn't matter.
To the group.
Okay. I know I stay with the group. I don't need your comment.
Kill the Sun Eater here.
Archer. Oh, that's not the right Sun Eater. Right here.
Yeah, the game. Yep, right there. See, they're stacked up. Unfortunately, there wasn't a gate there. Those two handers should be brought in soon. Watch those negates, guys. Okay, this Sun Eater here on the northern wall.
My warhorn.
Watch these negates.
Oh, that one archer didn't come.
Yeah. Try to stack them. No, that's actually a decent stack. That's a pretty good stack. Should look like that, basically. A little faster though.
Okay.
We're not gonna aggro immediately. So there's a lot of mechanics here. Well, not a lot, but again, you just can't overthink it. So we're gonna break it down mechanic by mechanic. First mechanic that we should probably go over is what Rakkhat does himself. Or first mechanics. So Rakkhat, he does. Let me think. 3 things himself. Everything else is sort of environmental damage or some other stuff. First thing he does usually, and this all starts on pad 2. Maybe we should go over what pads there are. Okay, so this is pad 1. Most groups will refer to this as pad 1. Some groups refer to the middle pad he's on as pad 1. I don't know why, but that's usually called just the middle pad or pad 0. Pad 1 is this, and pad 2 is this, pad 3 is this, pad 4. You get the idea at this point. There's a total of 8 pads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And the pad he's on will always be golden, and this golden circle or pad will basically buff the tank, so he basically doesn't get one shot. He gets a mitigation buff. However, if somebody is on this golden pad as the tank comes over to this golden pad, they will have that mitigation buff. It doesn't give it to everybody, and the tank will probably die if he doesn't like roll dodge a heavy or something. So it's always important as a DPS and healer to either be aware enough to step off of it as the tank comes to the next pad, or just not step on it at all. General rule of thumb for DPS in here, and you'll tell your DPS this, is you always want to stay on Rakkhat. The most basic mistake DPS do is they leave or transition to the next pad when he's still on the previous pad. Just maximize your DPS as much as possible, and then once he transitions, then you move. Most groups will tell you, hey, transition to the next pad, outer side, and this is what we kind of refer to as outer, especially when we're talking about other mechanics. That'll kind of break down also. And the reason being is, this is going to be more relevant for hard mode more than non-hard mode. The reason why the group usually wants to transition from one pad to the next using the outer side is because on hard mode there are these ads that can spawn. If you don't block their spin AoEs, you get knocked backwards or something. So let's say I'm running on the inner side and then I don't block their spinning AoE, it will just send me to pad 0. I'll get cursed, and being cursed is not a very good thing, as you can probably tell from the first boss. So the second thing Rakkhat does is threshing wings. We're fortunate enough, at least on PC, to know what basically the Allen tells us. it'll just tell you block threshing wings, but it's harder to like kind of distinguish from some of his regular attacks. Sometimes there's like a detail to it, but you always want to block threshing wings. You don't want to get knocked backwards. Getting knocked backwards is pretty bad. The third mechanic that happens is Darkness Falls, or meteors as a lot of groups like to call it. He'll throw up his hands in the air like he's at a concert, and you'll have, on non-hard mode, you probably have 3 kiters, or not kiters, yeah, kiters. Usually two are healers for most groups, and 1 healer kites outer, 1 healer kites inner, and the third person is a ranged DPS usually, and they can kite in between left and right healer. A misconception about this fight, about that Darkness Falls or Meteors mechanic, is that it's based on the distance to the boss. It's not. It's based on the distance to the nearest player. So let's say me and Wolfie are kiting side by side next to each other, and if we're too close, we won't be aggroing the meteors. But if we're at this distance and we're kiting, we should be aggroing the meteors. Does that make sense to everybody? So it's not distance to the boss that attracts the meteors, it's distance to another player.
Okay, so you want your main group to basically be one
stack.
Unit.
Yeah, exactly.
That way they'll never aggro it. Okay.
Perfect, yep. On hard mode, we'll probably have 4 kiters, because on non-hard mode you can definitely heal through the meteors that do fall in group. On hard mode, you probably can as well, but it's a bit too risky. Especially with this patch, you know, everyone's trying to run Christian Stranglers or whatever. But that's a different discussion. But you'll definitely, for safety reasons, for even progression groups, yeah, you want to have 4 kiters for hard mode. And that 4th kiter can also kite behind the healers or just forward. And I'll explain that when we get to hard mode. Now, as for the mechanics, before I explain Backroom, the mechanics from pad 2 to 3, pad 1 is basically just parse your heart out. DPS as much as possible. Okay, and on pad 2 to pad 3, the mechanics start happening. So pad 2, the only mechanic that will occur is either is like Threshing Wings, Darkness Falls, and then the third mechanic that will start happening on Pad 2 is people will start getting Unstable Voids. Unstable Voids are these growing red AoEs under your feet. Once those AoEs reach their maximum size, which is about the size of that pad right there, right? You'll basically, it's a bomb with shrapnel, and then it'll blow up in the group. If you're still in the group, you'll kill everybody else. You'll be fine, but most likely other people will be dead. And how do we deal with Unstable Voids? Would anyone like to answer this?
We
Run
tuck
them
into a
Dig at the
corner.
wall.
Okay. So on Pad 2, if you get it, you should go into this corner. Not this corner. Because let's say the group is transitioning from Pad 2 to Pad 3, and you blow up in this corner, they're gonna get caught by the orbs. There's a neat trick that I don't really teach often because people don't really give a shit about it, but a neat trick with these corners is if you jump at the exact same time as the explosion, you can actually just get rid of a lot of the orbs that come out.
Oh, nice.
But that's not really needed. You can just, it's just a trick. Third one, by the time we get to Pad 3, the unstable voids just keep happening, and the corners you'll use are these corners right here, this corner, and this corner. Notice how I'm positioning my character as well, right? You're not facing, you're not face planting yourself into the wall. You're actually using this alcove, this little corner, and this corner. And for this corner, you probably want to face like someone like this. I don't know if you can see my face, because the orbs come out from you forward, diagonally, and left and right. So if the group is stacked here, and you're blowing up over here, you don't want to be like this. You want to be like this. That makes sense. In terms of the group's positioning on Pad 2 and Pad 3, you're pretty much always going to be around here. And this will be relevant for hard mode because on hard mode they add spawn, the 3 add spawn, spinning guys. And if as Magicka DPS composition, just put your wall down right from here. You'll notice that the wall actually extends from here to here and all the way out here. And if the off-tank is correct in terms of positioning, the adds will be in the cleave naturally. So let's say we're here instead and the adds are right next to us. We're not cleaving them. They need to be cleaved now. So this is why this positioning is preferred in a lot of groups. Once Pad 3 ends, Pad 4 starts. Pad 4, nothing really happens, really. It's sort of a break. There's no more unstable voids, no more going to corners, really. Maybe a Threshing Wings will happen, maybe a Darkness Falls will happen, maybe the Barrage will happen, and I'll get into the Barrage later for the things. So Pad 4, it's kind of a break, but once Pad 4 ends, you need to be aware of a certain new mechanic that happens. There are these dark blue orbs that float out from the middle pad, and these orbs are basically like dogs. You don't want them to touch you. Well, I mean, evil dogs or mean dogs. Sorry, I mean I know I'm a dog person.
Rabid.
Okay,
Rabid.
yeah, rabid dogs. Okay, and you'll have a leash or tether between yourself and the orbs. The tether, a lot of people have this misconception that the tether from the orbs, if you like the Necromancer siphon, like if you like connect the tether to somebody else, it'll damage them. It's not true. The orb itself will only damage people. The tether itself, it's whatever. The tether is just there for you to either lead the orbs away from the group, or just to let you know that, hey, the orb's on you. As long as you yourself or other people are not touching the orbs or are in the orbs, you're fine. Just basically treat it like a dog on a leash. Does that make sense? And this happens the moment Pad 4 ends, these orbs come out floating towards you. Or people. So you gotta be really aware of where you're standing. And yeah. And by Pad 5, this mechanic continues. Threshing Wings is still going on. Darkness Falls is still going on. Nothing really changes. If your group has low DPS... Excuse me?
I have a question actually. How far out of the group do you have to take the orbs? Because I've heard like 7 different things from different groups.
That depends on where the orb is. So let's pretend you're standing here. Actually, I think... hold on. I think I know a perfect skill to demonstrate this. Okay, you're out here, and I'm an orb. Woo! I'm coming. This is actually how fast an orb actually travels, at blocking walking distance, right? So let's say the group is situated here, right? And you're over here. So what happens if I tether to you, right? And you're over there. I go through the group, right? So it's either up to the group to be aware enough that they sidestep the orb as it comes to you, or up to you what if you want to come closer and then lead me away from the group. So like you should, like if you were here, you can be like here, so the orb doesn't go through here, and instead goes through like here.
So you're just trying to pull it away from the group in whatever direction is most efficient.
Yep. Or, I mean, in the end, everyone should be aware enough as...
Because there's a lot of misconceptions out there, like you have to run it into the door to make it pop, and
No,
that
no,
sort
Yeah,
of
people
thing.
That's
say
bullshit.
like you have to go. Like,
And I
spot-
didn't think it was right, which is why I'm asking.
No, that's good, that's good.
I've never heard that one. That's weird.
But
No, I've
like
heard
an
it
old
before.
wives' tale.
somebody going through the door on accident. I was like, people say shit like "go here," and someone just went through.
they do pop, quote unquote, but they just expire after a time, and then new ones come
Okay.
out. So
So you don't break the leash; they just expire.
yeah.
I thought you
Move it
broke the
away.
leash.
So here, actually, this is a pretty interesting thing. So imagine DBC is now the orb. She's the orb now,
Yep.
and she's close to me. Actually, slow down significantly the closer they get to you. Just stand still for a second. Okay, she's the orb. She's really close to me. I have to actually be like right next to her or in her to get hit by her. That's why there's like literally no excuse for most people to just not pay attention, to actually pay attention. When the orb is this close, you can actually do this. That's all you gotta do. You just dance around the orb if you can.
Wow.
That's how small the hitbox is from the orb, and that's why it's very frustrating to me when I see people just staying there and take the orbs. I mean, it's just literally just sidestep it. Yeah,
Step to the left or whatever.
yeah, that's it. That's
Is my
literally
Sigil
it.
shield even a good radius example, or is it even a little tighter than
It's
that?
tighter
They're
than
a little
that. It's smaller than that.
radius.
It's
Yeah,
literally
wow,
smaller
that's
than
crazy.
that. Yeah,
Okay.
that's why it's like, okay, why aren't you just sidestepping it? People just
This
tunnel.
is the best demo ever, by the way. Guard plus Sigil thing.
Okay, so Pad 5 is over. If your groups have not much DPS, you probably will be at Pad 7. I think even groups with very, very bad DPS or really low DPS will not do Lunar Phase this patch, or honest. I think it's impossible. Or if it is possible, you have to try really hard or be
It's
like an
on purpose.
absolute beginner or something.
Light attack only.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know about that one either. But anyway, by the time you hit Pad 6, there's no more orbs. It's like a break, right? You know this by now. Pad 4, there's a break. Pad 6, there's a break. By the time you had Pad 7, there's a new mechanic. And remember, the unstable voids, the orbs on Pad 4 to Pad 5, they're gone. There's a new mechanic. It's these big blue balls. Stationary big blue balls. Yeah, hold on.
Calling
Yeah.
them that from now on instead of
Okay,
being
get your mind out of
balls.
the gutter. Alright. There's this big blue stationary balls that spawn. Beach balls, a lot of groups call them. And all you have to do,
Balls from now on.
is sidestep them. That's it. You just move out of them. And they just spawn very periodically, and that's all you have to do. By the time you hit Pad 8, another Hulk will spawn, and we'll talk about the Hulk here soon. But the beach balls still spawn, I believe. And by the time you hit Pad 8, Rakkhat will initiate Lunar Phase. And we'll touch on that maybe like this Thursday. Because I don't think we'll do Lunar Phase today. We're running out of time. Okay, so one mechanic I mentioned that was for the tanks specifically. He does barrage, or dark barrage, or machine gun as people like to call him. He puts his hands together just like Lord Warden Dusk in Imperial City Prison. He tucks his wings in, then he starts barraging you. How do you mitigate it? If you're a Dragon Knight, you can use wings. Do not ever use something that reflects his barrage, like defensive stance. If you do, he will heal for the amount you're reflecting. So, unless you're trolling or something, you don't want to reflect his barrage. You won't die, but his health is gonna.
That's how you get to Lunar Phase.
Right. No. Okay, and basically, the tank, you're just gonna hold block, mitigate, keep up your buffs and debuffs. Just like the Warrior Hard mode. It's literally the Warrior Hard mode, except Barrage. And Barrage is a neat way for the group to actually push DPS, especially if we're close to like wiping or something. Speaking of wiping, let's go over to Backroom Mechanics. Why don't we all have everybody come back? Because you need to teach this to your group. Shockingly, a lot of people who've cleared VMAW have never done Backroom. And every time I do a VMAW, nobody wants to volunteer or can't volunteer because they don't know how to do it. So here we get to learn how we're going to do it.
I can't lead it from the back room, so I get very little experience.
Yeah.
That's fine.
I taught myself, actually.
Okay. There's a neat graphic or GIF in the Visualize Strats channel in this Discord server.
Yeah, let's see how you have it set up.
And it's exactly the same way I'm going to show it. So you can refer to that graph or GIF anytime. It shows the pathway of the 2 runners. You don't want to send more than 2. It's pretty much a DPS loss if you send more than 2. And this is the wipe mechanic. If you don't find all 6 shadow callers or I don't know what they call it, singers. There's dancers. Oh, there's singers. Whatever.
They're
dancers.
called void callers.
Void callers. Yeah, there you go. Sorry.
There we go.
Yeah.
2 cats left, 2 cats middle, 2 cats right. What do I mean by sides? So there are these pads right here with the pillows and the bowls. And these bowls will be lit with a blue fire until you reveal whatever is here. Sometimes you reveal nothing, sometimes you reveal a void collar, which you need to light attack once to kill to fulfill the wipe mechanic. And there's sometimes the assassins that'll snare you and chunk your health down a little bit. You just gotta kill those immediately, a couple light weaves and you're good to go. And some of these pads are considered left and some of these pads are considered right or middle. I'm going to show you guys how to run the left side of Backroom. So first, you enter, you synergize here at this pad, then you jump across this small gap. You use this pad, then there's another pad up ahead. Then there's another pad up ahead at this intersection, and this is where people fuck up. You want to go right to this pad, and then you want to go to this pad right here. This is considered a middle pad, actually, and then you want to jump across this gap. Get this one, and somebody fell. And then you want to go back to that intersection where we came from and go right here. There's another pad, and there's another pad. And then you just jump across here. You try not to jump across gaps if you're snared from the assassins though. Just wait, you can wait. And then you want to go towards middle and finish up. By the time you hit middle, the other runner should also have finished up. And now I'll show you guys the right side and how to do the right side. And some people say, oh, right side's much more difficult. I
Right's the easy side.
personally don't think so. I mean, I think they're both the same, but there's a couple more gaps I think to like jump across. Alright, so you start at this pad here. This is probably the most dangerous one. You jump across. And then you synergize here. Then you go to this pad. After this pad, you want to double back. Jump across this gap. And then this pad. And then this pad here. People think this pad is actually this pad where we double back from. It's not. It's a different pad. And then you go here. And then you go here. That's the usual path. And then you finish up with these pads in the back. 1, 2, and 3. Now, there's something you also need to know about running Backroom. What happens if you find cats, like both cats on the left or the right? You don't have to, right? You don't have to synergize every pad after that. After you find your cats on the left side or right side, you don't have to do the exact path I showed you. You can just skip straight to the middle pads, if that makes sense. You don't have to like synergize every pad. If as long as you've found your cats on left and right, you just skip straight to middle. So let's say I find one cat here and one cat here. These are considered left pads. I found 2 cats here that are void collars. I light attack them to death, and then I just go straight to middle. I don't even bother checking the other pads. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Alright, who wants to run?
Yeah. So in other words, there is not more than 2 per left, right, and center.
But there's also other cats that can spawn called assassins, so if you kill those don't count towards not wiping the group.
Right.
You have to keep calling these void callers. And look at me right now. I'm
Void
doing the
callers.
/ ritual dance. This is what they'll be doing, the void callers. When you find them, when you expose them.
Okay.
Okay. Who wants to run backroom?
Me. Oh, sorry.
Good try.
We're not stacked.
Yep, stack up everybody a little closer. And here you block.
And that's why the pillar happened where it happened, because we weren't stacked.
Okay, if you can keep comms clear though, please. I appreciate it, but... Everybody get into your positions. I don't see M1 through M3.
We were cleansing.
Right on.
Odin.
I was distracted, I'm sorry.
Taking him. Got him.
Okay.
Nice job. Very minimal scooch there. Shield phase, everybody damage.
That's an unfortunate pillar. Sorry. I'm down. I need res.
Skylar, are you out by pad?
Yeah. Nephis got me.
Okay. Thank you.
I only lost Nephis.
Pillars. Hide everybody. Line of sight hide. Make sure you block walk to make sure you get in there. Great job.
That was the pillar.
Pulling him back.
Well,
The nuke you're in,
yes, I know.
too close.
Alright. Boss is in original position.
Thank you. Damage first, then get resist, please. I'll get
My horn.
I got Predator Reaper. Actually, I don't. I got cursed.
I got
someone-
him.
Predator Reaper, please. Thank you.
Got him.
I have him. Yeah.
Okay. I don't have a pad to go to. Off tank down.
Yeah.
Let's execute. We're at 6 million. Sorry about that, but I think we can probably finish it. Nice job.
So, to correct someone,
One.
the Colossus when you get them.
Okay.
Skylar one. Holden's one. Color swaps.
Healer staying, my horn.
Doji and Colossus one.
Why?
Sting. Josie one. Skylar Horn, the new Colossus.
Ah, fuck.
Healer changing.
Color swap.
Healer swapping.
Someone went around the negate.
Me.
Stay.
My horn.
Well. What?
That was me. Trying to get the ad behind you.
Healer swapping.
And we're done.
My
My horn?
Alright, good luck, guys. Have fun.
Alright. Move to the next one. Block. Block.
You gotta bring it closer to me. I can't. Interrupt.
Got him?
my horn.
Yeah, pick up Wooden.
Whoa, shit.
My horn.
The new classes, please.
Alright.
My horn after the gun.
We can take him.
Let's
Horn.
block.
My horn.
I'll grab the Hulk.